Welcome to South Carolina Trade Talk podcast. I'm Dr. David Laplace at the Citadel at the Tommy and Victoria Baker School of Business, offering meet available to the South Carolina International Trade Coalition. Welcome Mark Condon, account executive who works with government and ports for ImportGenius.
David, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So data is really key to building a successful international business plan. So Mark, tell us a little bit about global trade data, source of data, use of data for that purpose.
Oh, certainly. So trade data, really has and is evolving very quickly now. I mean, we all know the technology is accelerating very quick. And you and I were chatting. I mentioned I started in 1996 with trade data and at the South Carolina World Trade Center with CD-ROMs, and how comical that is now to think back of the slowness and the difficulty to get the data. It's amazing. But I'd like to start, because I mention this all the time, because I start with understanding the sources, because as you mentioned, it's really critical for the business plan or for your planning. To understand there's two real key sites from different governments. One is the statistical type, we call it census type data, meaning the governments release a high level trade flows and so forth. And the beauty of that data is that it's the most complete data you can get to. It is up to the 10-digit HS code, which is the most granular that's available. And it comes in all modes, meaning air, freight, truck, rail, and pipe. And so you can get a full view of what's happening, globally. And, there's two free sources that are the US Census data, which is good, and then UN Comtrade, which is also good. The challenges of those are they are a little bit difficult to use. The UN Comtrade is the global data. And I always want to dive into it just for a second, because oftentimes we think of the US trading globally, of course, but then you have the global data, which is UN Comtrade, which has all the different governments, countries' data per country globally. And the beauty of that is it can give you the flow of your product everywhere. So you can see markets growing in China or markets growing wherever. And so it gives you a bigger, more complete picture. The negative of the census data is it doesn't have any company names in it. There's no way to track an actual shipper or consignee anywhere. So that leads to where I am more in the bill of lading data. And that really gives granular, and it's kind of the flip side, it gives you ocean data from maritime, and it gives you the most granular data available of company transactions. And that is very similar. It has great US import data, which is the best in the world, the most clearest, and they really do a great job. US Customs does a great job of splitting that data up. And so there's a number of publishers like ImportGenius that are out there. And so there's 4 or 5 that really take the bill of lading from Customs and clean it up and make it usable on an interface. And that's what we do. And so the value of that is you can actually get the information right from the company transaction, and it's actually quite quick. And what folks don't realize is the speed of the bill of lading data. That comes in every night, and so companies have that in the next day or so, and that's why you have a lot of finance companies, a lot of the logistics firms, obviously ports, and people want to know exactly what came in yesterday at every port. And so it's an amazing visibility. And so that gives really great granular data for all countries coming into the U.S. But you can imagine that what happens if we're just focusing on U.S. maritime data. We're missing Canada, we're missing Mexico truck, which is up to 30% of U.S. trade. And so when you have them both together, it really gives you the window into what's happening in Canada with the census, and then what's happening maritime wise, with the seaports. And as long as you know where the data is coming from, you can really develop a business model that is accurate and also is is timely. So it's kind of like combining both. But I do want to mention that, there are subscription level data on the census side too. We don't offer that at ImportGenius. We're more on the bill of lading side, but there's actually, trade data mining actually located in Daniel Island, and they have an office in Geneva. So and there's several more that are out there that are on the census side that I do refer to on the census side. So there's other sources out there, and you kind of can, and they all can be cobbled together in a solution. So that's really the challenge. The approach I really give and advise all the companies to go at is really partner with a data firm that has basically their team really focuses on understanding the client and their business model and really the pain points of what they're working on. Because it's you really don't want to just jump into a subscription and or have a basic set where you're basically left alone. You really want to have a plan where it meshes with your your business, that what's happening with your company. But there's really 2 or 3 things that really are happening that are kind of exciting. We're going forward, what we're working on, and other firms also. It's really it's what I call almost like the combination of what I call triangulation of the data and AI. And so what's happening is, so lots of countries don't allow the bill of lading data to have any names, meaning the European Union, South Africa, Australia, Canada, they don't allow the name data to go out there. So you can basically mix the countries that do have the data together in one package where you can see trade into the EU with company names from the countries that have the data. So that's one thing that's happening within the data world, where the data is becoming much more, I guess, powerful would be the term, where you have more data capacity. And then beyond that, artificial intelligence from other sources that are basically being meshed into the trade data. So you can basically get, tendencies and awareness much faster, much quicker. And so and that's really where it's headed. Think of it as almost like, the glut of data is a problem unless you can ferret out exactly what you need and make it accurate and make it timely. So that's where we're headed, to where, companies and leadership need solutions of data, from data, that basically help them and guide them quicker. Because as we know, speed is critical. And so you can't have these giant lags, and you got to have information that's accurate and ready to go. And so it's really what's exciting about data and the evolution of all the technology is that it's really happening quickly within trade data. And again, what a distance from the CD-ROM of old, and the old, folks are old enough to remember the baud modem and all the old stuff.
Yeah, we still remember those days. Wow. So I mean, that it's incredible to see that. So and from your picture that you have behind you, certainly as we see all the movement of goods and seeing the interaction of the various entities, you have customers and you have the purveyors, and you also have the people who facilitate that trade. Obviously, it's not just the expedited of an actual shipment. In this case, it's also knowing that some of this information could be useful for people. Right. And I think you've spoken to some kind of like basic standard depiction of what data mining obviously is an art, but the beauty is that a lot of the things that I think you just said was how to best find building a model for the company, but then also subscribing to the right set of data so that you can make both informed decisions, but you can also make timely decisions.
I think and you mentioned the ship behind me. It's that CMA ship is quite remarkable, meaning the 15,000 TEU ship. But South Carolina is perfectly positioned going forward to handle the biggest ships, and we have the best access globally with the Port of Charleston and what they've done. It's really quite remarkable.
Well, that's exciting. Mike, I really want to thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your expertise about data mining with our podcasters. For people, hopefully, and again, look forward to having you back on, hopefully in the future.
Yeah, anytime.
So folks, again, on behalf of the South Carolina International Trade Coalition and certainly the Tommy and Victoria Baker School of Business at the Citadel, who's hosting this podcast, we thank you and we look forward to having you part of our future episodes.